right now. Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I first of all want to apologize for being late this morning. I did have a health issue in the family that is now in the Oakville Hospital. So my son flew down from Edmonton, and we spent the morning in Oakville Hospital. Things are stabilized now, which is good news, and here I am. Secondly, I want to, I think of the flow-through share program that was instituted to encourage mines to explore and open up in Northern Ontario. What transpires, it was a 5-year window, and once that 5-year window opened, they took their money, their grants, and closed down the shop and left. So when you look at grants, and we looked at our sewer program, you saw how it was exploited. So when we talk about 350 jobs, these aren't new jobs. Let's be clear. So I can see why the Lower City Council are celebrating this, but these are 350 jobs taken from Ward 8, from another part of the city, and shifted downtown. If that's a win, then boy, oh boy, I've lost the whole definition of win. When you take a look at those lands, a lot of those lands were bequested to the foundation for the purpose of providing health care for mountain residents, period. Since then, the emergency care closed down, the urgent care facility closed down, and the province and the LHINs promoted and consulted with the community the need, empirical best practices, an urgent care facility needed in the South Mountain, which the mountain residents were celebrating. This was the same time when they were looking at closing down the adult emergency care at MAC. So lo and behold, the heat is turned up. The cabinet minister at the time, politics interfere, not great, not empirical data. That urgent care facility that was so badly needed in the South Mountain was end up located in the Lower City. So when I take a look at the fact that all this is shifting of jobs and shifting of priority, it's at somebody else's expense. And it's our own community's expense. So when I talk about Chedoke properties, let's be clear. Those 25 acres were promised to the community. They have made a very strong commitment that those lands will continue providing health care uses or research on the mountain. So when we make this automatic assumption that it's going to generate significant amount of taxes, you don't know who the tenant is. This is walking blindly on an assumption that may never be realized. And yet, we're ripping and raping parts of this community of jobs to bring it to the lower city. I don't think that's welcomed in the mountain. I can tell you that the autism program, that was a great program in a quiet setting that the parents really enjoyed, and they were planning to build a new building on the Chedoke property. Lo and behold, the city throws out money, province throws in money, and they end up putting that facility in the Lower City, to the chagrin of many of the parents that have autistic kids, because of the environment they are now finding themselves in. I don't think our grant program should be rewarding people for shifting jobs. IBM, no net new jobs. Those IBM jobs came from Chedoke. Let's be clear. Again, no net new jobs. So I think health sciences is a good partner. We need to do our part, but we need to understand they're not taxpayers in this community. We're not netting a tax benefit here in this community by handing out money and grants so that jobs could be taken out of other parts of the community and located in one location, which is putting a lot of added pressure, by the way, in that community. So I'm befuddled. I'm puzzled by the fact that we have no accurate assessment. We're operating on assumption, but we're automatically prepared to increase the cap? That question, now that you have some context.
Go ahead.
Through the Deputy Mayor to the Councillor. So, first of all, let me make it clear that the $700,000 that we are proposing here today was not put out as a lure to bring these jobs downtown. The Health and Health Sciences Centre made their decision first on where they wanted to go, where it made sense for them. They came to the realization through a good and well laid out business plan, and Aaron Levo from the Hamilton Health Sciences Centre is here with us today if you want to get into that. They made the decision they need to go and find another spot. They're spread out over numerous buildings, some aging buildings, and that there were good and valid reasons to combine operations into one space. They then made the decision that they would locate downtown because they believe in and support the principles of city building. And more is achieved, they thought, when you can locate it in an area where there is retail that will benefit, as opposed to, and Councillor Farr alluded to it, another public sector funded organization which moved to a green field where there is really no spin-off benefit or little spin-off benefit to the surrounding businesses. So that was their thought. Secondly, they have stated, Bay Area Health Trust have stated the principles in which they are looking at other partners and which are in due diligence. So it might be helpful if I read them to you, Councillor. My thought is they would have shared this with you before, and clearly not. So here are the principles.
Mr. Chair, I don't want to know. I know the principles, so to repeat it now is just rhetoric to me.
Well,
what I want to hear is the fact that there's a need for an urgent care facility that is being demonstrated through the District Health Council, through LINS, and through the ministry, and the plug was pulled and the urgent care facility went to the lower city. I want to know what we're doing with the programs and the grants and gifts that we're providing to ensure the Health Sciences understands that we also have a greater need on the South Mountain that needs to be addressed. How do we leverage that?
And again, I don't know the answer to that question, Councillor. I can share with you their principles say that they will support community health care initiatives that support overall needs for health and wellness, initiatives that benefit transitional wellness will be promoted, and that support neighboring institutions and community health education partners. That is the principles they are using in terms of deciding who that property will go to. And the other principle that they have stated is that it will be, where possible, private sector tax generating occupants. So it may be a family medical practice is part of it. It may be pharmacies. Those are private sector partners who do pay tax. So that's the part of it that I have. In terms of other things, such as you mentioned the autism program or the other campuses moving downtown, not anything that I have knowledge on. I can only tell you about our discussions on this particular move of the administrative offices, and it is administrative offices. This is not healthcare. This is admin.
So, Mr. Chair, can I ask this question then? Are you suggesting that before they developed the plan, they had no awareness of the opportunity to apply for grants with the City of Hamilton?
Well, that's a question you'd have to ask them. I mean, they wanted to come in. Their request was originally, when the city manager and I met with them, to come in and make a presentation to you and ask for considerably more than that. My suggestion was it's probably a much easier rationale to say when there's a program to encourage redevelopment of office space in the downtown, why not take advantage of that? It makes sense and the money is there. It is no additional ask. But again, to be clear, they're not holding this over our head. They made the decision to move down for good and valid business reasons, and if you say no today, they're still coming. It's going to cost them $700,000 more than they had hoped out of the $5.1 million they're going to spend. That's $700,000 less that might go into healthcare somewhere, but they're still coming. This is not a give us the money or we're not coming.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You're a staff person now, and I'm going to ask this very respectfully. Now putting yourself in the shoes of Health Sciences and making yet another a comment, and I'm trying to understand how you find yourself in that position.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, you're making a comment on their behalf. My issue is that they knew about these programs, they knew about the grants, and when they developed the darn program, all that was part of the consideration before they made their decision. That's only logical. So to suggest that that didn't have some impact on their decision is being a bit naive.
Oh, I'm not sure that's accurate, Councillor.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm having a real problem understanding how you can leap from having grant programs here, a group over here making decisions on how they're going to move into the future, to suggest that they wouldn't have any awareness of these grant programs that helped influence the decision over here would be naive. That's a general comment. I'm not talking about, certainly for us to believe.
But you did hear Mr. Norton state that they actually come into us for more. And,
Yes.
and so they did approach the city before they made their decision, although it still needs council approval for the 700,000 before us today.
So, Mr. Chair, I think the key issues here, there's no net new jobs. There's, but we're throwing money out to centralize their operation, help them meet their business plan. What's ours? What's ours in regards to what needs that need to be met in this city, other than the lower city? Is there any strategic things that we can leverage out of health sciences to meet the greater needs of this community? Have we taken those things in consideration before we start handing money out? That's my question through you to the staff.
Jason?
So through the chair, I think in fairness to what the application is in front of you, is Urban Renewal is tasked with administering a number of council-approved programs. One of those council-approved programs is designed to attract jobs into the vacant office spaces we have in downtown core. If the question is, do we at Urban Renewal have some sort of program to direct healthcare services to other parts of the city, we don't have any programs that provide that. We don't have any grant or incentive programs to incent healthcare providers to provide healthcare services anywhere in the city, lower city or on the mountain. What we do have is a program the council has approved to bring jobs into the vacant offices in the downtown core. That's the program that is a public program. Everyone would have known it existed, and this applicant qualifies for that program, at least to the maximum of the $450,000. You have a report in front of you that suggests that could go as high as $700,000 with council approval, but they are an eligible applicant within a council-approved program.
Mr. Chair, I find it challenging that I am to believe that we work in silos now. That means that we can work on one objective over here in isolation of our greater mandate and needs in this community. So is that what is being suggested, that this program is so isolated that we don't look at the broader issues of this community?
So through the chair, the terms of the program are to look at leasehold improvements in some of the downtown offices for jobs relocating into some of those vacant buildings. So that's the scope of the program. As I said, we don't have a program that looks at provision of healthcare services and providing grants, low interest loans, any of those types of things that we provide through the CIP, providing those sorts of programs anywhere in the city through the Urban Renewal program.
So, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the Deputy Mayor. I appreciate the answer. I think the issue is we don't have a strategic approach that looks at all activities of the city to ensure that we're meeting key objectives, values, health, etc., in the broader community. So, how do we design such a system that nothing works in isolation?
So through the chair, all I can suggest is that, it'd be at the will of council if they want us to direct changes to the programs, additional programs, changes to the CIP, then that's something we would be able to do at the staff level if we were directed to do so. But when the CIP came up for renewal earlier this year, there were some changes to the programs, and those are the programs that we're administering.
Mr. Chair, I can appreciate some of the squabble on some of my lower city colleagues. After all, there are 350 jobs coming to the lower city from the mountain, which I'm sure they appreciate immensely. But I am speaking on behalf of the community that I represent. I hope you can respect that. And I hope you can also respect that I support a program, but I also support a strategic approach to all things we do to ensure that every person in this community is being thought of and certain strategic issues and challenges are being met. And without having that as the overlayer on all activities, then we do have a challenge. So let's be clear, jobs have left, nothing's replaced them. They have the land up for sale. Well, I can tell you right now there's more likely going to be a challenge depending on the uses. pretty significant challenge from the Ward 8 residents, which will be somewhat limiting in regards to the type of activities going to take place there because of the commitments and promises that was bequested, and because of the Chedoke Foundation made that absolute publicly and otherwise that those 25 acres would be preserved for a purpose. And if that's not, purpose isn't being met, that I can guarantee you that the community will be challenging any planning aspects of what takes place in that, on those lands. I would think that my colleagues would be as defensive if they were in the same situation on a block of land that was donated for the purposes of servicing a generic area or a certain purpose, and you find that that has been eroded and has been compromised. And that is the concern, certainly of my residents. And what's even more concerning is the fact that we create programs to incentivize or provide incentives for jobs to move from one part of the city to the other. And if that's how our programs are going to work, if that's the purpose of our program, not to attract new businesses from outside this community, but now let's create incentives for businesses to leave other parts of the city to come into a particular location, then I think that's wrong-headed, or certainly wasn't thought through, and that on those assessments, we need to be much more critical about whether or not we are meeting objectives. And those are my concerns with the increase. Again, generically, I support the program, but there must be much more overlay, and the objective cannot be taking businesses from other areas of the city, period.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I have Jackson, then Scully, then Marula, and then Farr for a second time. So, Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So through you to Glenn. Glenn, to be clear, these 350 administrative jobs, they're reallocated. None of them are new